how did you sort of really decide to mix these two professions up and do both at the same point of time?
Chartered accountancy, essentially 5 or 6 subjects are around law, because you've got your direct taxes, indirect taxes, you've got law as a subject, you've got audit as a subject. So all of these are virtually, they surround the law in one way or the other. So finance honestly came to me by choice. I chose to do, I joined a college here in HR, I joined a college here in Mumbai called HR College, and then as a natural progression, it goes to BCom and Chartered Accountancy. And law came to me by inheritance. Inheritance, not in the sense that my father is a lawyer or anything of that sort. In fact, I'm the first person in my family who has actually gone ahead and done law. And so inheritance, because my father had a bunch of litigations that he was dealing with. He is in business. The gift of adulthood, if I may say so, were those litigations, and that's how I sort of got drawn towards law, and that's how I ultimately moved into legal tech.
Like, what is the solution, and how are you really improving access to justice?
It took us some time to actually put it all together. We had no real reference to look at. We were doing it for, kind of a, not only a make in India, but made for India kind of a thing also. To be very, very location specific, so to say.
That's absolutely great. I understand that there have been some other government recognition of PRESOLV also. Can you just walk us through them as well?
So we had made a presentation in, I think, 2018 or 2019 to the Ministry of Law and Justice. And, so typically what we hear about the government that, okay, getting a meeting with them is going to be impossible, right? You know how bureaucracy works, how government works. Interestingly, a first cold call to them, and they said, come to Delhi, we are ready to meet you.
Wow. Okay, and so I think people just need to take the first step.
Absolutely. I cannot emphasize that enough, because that was something, we have a preconceived notion that, it's not going to work, but we've never tried. So that is, if you don't try, it's 100% no, so that's what happened. So various consultations with the Niti Aayog. So the Niti Aayog, of course, has done extensive work and has also published the ODR report, for which we were a part of the consultation. We have also the Department of Legal Affairs. So the department
is going, like, how do you see legal tech really changing how we practice law and how disputes are done particularly?
People see legal tech as a threat, especially younger lawyers. They feel that they're going to be replaced. I think they just need to upskill, because these legal tech, products or services are not going to work by themselves. You need smart lawyers who are well equipped with law and technology to be able to take this forward. So
for a student, right, who wants to engage with legal tech, what do you think they should, like, where should they start?
You are able to find a problem worth solving. And if you're passionate about solving that problem, it doesn't matter whether you're working somewhere, whether you're part of a law firm, whether you're part of a company, or in the legal department, you're an entrepreneur, you're a student, it doesn't really matter. You can be entrepreneurial in your own way.
But where does one start? And how do you really take that leap of faith when you're trying to start out?
If age is on your side, you can experiment. We are all experimenting. See, honestly, when you apply, let's say somebody applies to a law firm, you are experimenting because you don't really know what happens until you get the on-the-job training. If you want to do so as a lawyer, if you want to do an MBA, forget your IIMs, forget your Ivy Leagues. Entrepreneurship is your best experience of an MBA. It's going to be.
Hey everyone, we have Bhaven with us today. Bhaven is the co-founder of PRESOLV360, which is a legal tech startup that's tackling the problem of ODR in the country, and we'll speak more about PRESOLV in a bit. Bhaven is a CA and also a lawyer. He's worked with the Big Four before, and then he started PRESOLV. In which year was that, Bhaven?
That was 2017.
2017. So yeah, so we'll dive right into it. Thank you so much for taking out the time again to speak with us at Prolawgue today, Bhaven.
It's my pleasure. In fact, it's just been 5 years. 3 days back, we completed 5 years at PRESOLV360.
So congratulations for completing like half a decade then.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A long way to go yet, but yeah, a good start.
Absolutely. So we'll just sort of walk through how you got to PRESOLV, right? Like you have a bachelor's degree in commerce and law, and you're also a rank holder CA. How did you sort of really decide to mix these two professions up and do both at the same point of time?
So, quite honestly, rank holder was, it just happened. I don't know how, but it happened. Never in my wildest dream could I imagine that I would land up getting a rank in chartered accountancy. But I think a big a big part of that was because I went back to the basics while I was studying for the final exam. I went back to the basics of accounts, starting with the three golden rules, and I think that's true for everything, right? At any given point of time, if you face a challenge, if you go back to your basics and try and figure out the way ahead, I think you can get the answer. And Namita was also my co-founder. She's the one who actually taught me. So she's been a gold medalist in chartered accountancy, but my God, like I think she would, her hair would have become gray because of me, because the kind of questions I used to ask while we were studying CA. But if you go to see chartered accountancy, essentially 5 or 6 subjects are around law, because you've got your direct taxes, indirect taxes, you've got law as a subject, you've got audit as a subject. So all of these are virtually, they surround the laws in one way or the other. So finance honestly came to me by choice. I chose to do. I mean, I joined a college here in HR. I joined a college here in Mumbai called HR College, and then as a natural progression, it goes to BCom and chartered accountancy. And law came to me by inheritance. Inheritance, not in the sense that my father is a lawyer or anything of that sort. In fact, I'm the first person in my family who has actually gone ahead and done law. And so inheritance, because my father had a bunch of litigations that he was dealing with. He is in business, and as would be true for any businessman, whether it is something to do with property, whether it's something to do with money recovery, whether it's something to do with a transaction gone wrong, everybody faces litigation. And that was my first sort of encounter with litigation. I had experience with right from when I was studying CA. In fact, when I was studying my bachelor's degree, I had encounters with courts, lawyers, litigation, and I sort of was drawn towards that because I felt that that is something that he need not handle as a businessman. Let him focus on business. Let me do this. I'll get to learn, right? And it's a never-ending process here in our country. It's one lawyer to another, one court to another. That's how it is. And so that's how my interest in law actually began. And after I completed my chartered accountant, in fact, after I completed my bachelor's degree, and I was yet pursuing chartered accountancy. In between that is when I started pursuing law from the Government Law College here in Mumbai. And so law was, I really never had to study law, because with all the practical experience that I gained from all the courts and all dealing with lawyers and understanding the law myself, I realized what the law was about. So it just came to me naturally. It didn't matter what law I was studying. It's just that I understood how do you go about it. It's logical. Each law is drafted in a very logical way. It may be true that it is archaic now and it is not kept up with the modern times, but the fundamentals remain that it is driven on logic. And if you get that right, I don't think law is a very difficult course or a degree, provided, of course, you're passionate about it. So the gift of adulthood, if I may say so, were those litigations. And that's how I sort of got drawn towards law. And that's how I ultimately moved into legal tech. So yeah, short answer is it didn't happen. It was not planned at all. It just sort of fell in place as time went by.
That's very interesting, because most people who had to deal with litigation in their life would run away from law for life. But that's a very interesting switch. And then you sort of eventually, like you said, right, moved to legal tech and became an entrepreneur. So How did that sort of phase out for you?
So again, so one was, to what you said, a comment on what you said on the at the end. So litigation was something which really interested me, not from the perspective of practicing law, but from the perspective of a litigant. How do you navigate? How do you strategize? Rarely do lawyers really get time to actually delve so deep into a particular dispute because they are holding so many briefs. So it is a litigant who has to take the step. You have to self-educate. You need to understand, and you need to make it easy for the lawyers to present it in court. So, at one given point of time, I was handling 40 litigation. These are all personal litigation, but I was handling 40 of them at the same time. And then slowly started settling, and explored different aspects of, mediation. How do you negotiate? How do you deal with parties directly? How do you deal with their lawyers? Ultimately, with the aim of settling the dispute and ending the litigation. Once we were close to ending, almost all the 40 of them, I was wondering, okay, all the excitement of life seems to be coming to an end, because there was always something happening. It was so exciting. So naturally, then I was drawn. So at that time, I was working with KPMG in their M&A team. And again, so one of the litigations that we were also involved in a certain way as a consultant was the Kane retrospective taxation issue. It was a $2 billion issue, and mainly in strategy as to how should Kane go about it. What should be their stand? How should they sort of pitch to the government? How should they go about their legal strategies? All of that. And on the other hand, I had these, what a small trader, what a small textile trader goes through, and 32 million like him, what they go through in Indian courts. So it was a mix of both. Whether you're a large multinational enterprise or a small time trader, the struggles of litigation are the same. And so while the larger companies, larger corporates can handle it because they have a battery of lawyers, they have a lot of resources at their disposal, a small time trader or a regular common person, how does he navigate through litigation? How does he navigate through a dispute? And fundamentally, what we learned was that disputes are rarely about law. They are a natural. It's a natural progression of any relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or a professional relationship. A dispute can happen. It has nothing to do with law. It's just that we've made it about the law. The dispute resolution mechanisms are about the law. So a common person who has absolutely no knowledge of law, how does he navigate through a dispute? He need not learn law to be able to navigate through a dispute. Unfortunately, the procedures through the civil or the criminal procedure is so complex and it is archaic that somebody would find it so difficult, insurmountable to navigate through. So that is where we thought that there has to be a better way. Maybe the larger disputes need to be done in a formal way in courts through physical means, but smaller disputes can happen digitally. Today you've got your school on your phone. You've got your all your doctor consultations on your phone. You've got your bank on your phone. So when it comes to law, why is it that everybody has to run to courts? Why do they have to run to laws? Worth of, I have a 5 lakh rupee dispute, I have to run to a court in some place in the south of India, for example. Now, I don't have that kind of money at my disposal or the time at my disposal to take time off work for that matter, to go to court in some remote place just to get a date. It's virtually that's really what happens. So that is where we thought that no, there has to be some sort of a way where parties for small disputes, for when I say small, I would say anything ranging from, let's say, a 20-25,000 rupee dispute to a 20-25 lakh rupee dispute, because this is a range where parties need not meet in person to resolve a dispute, right? So these are disputes which we thought were amenable and conducive for online dispute resolution. And so we studied, we studied how the Gram Panchayat system works, because it beautifully They sit together, land up resolving a dispute. They don't straight away run to courts and try and resolve the dispute, And India, as such, our citizens are litigious in nature. They love fighting, and ego plays a very big role in that. So taking all these things into consideration, how international diplomacy works, how our gram panchayat system works, what are different mechanisms used world over, and what would work for India. India is a different. Indians are a different species because we like to do things our own way. We have our own issues and nuances to deal with. So, what would work for India? And after that was when we thought that online dispute resolution would be a great fit. It is coming at the right time, a time when banks have moved online, medical has moved online, education has moved online. Why not legal? Why can't dispute resolution move online? So that was essentially how we really thought of PRESOLV360, and that's how the sort of seeds were sowed from that perspective.
So when you I'm just trying to understand the progression. Of course, there's a lot of background you have and why there is an inclination towards ODR. But was it one fine day that you and Namita were talking and you were like, hey, why is this not being done? Or was this like a process? Like, did you experiment with other ideas in between as well?
So it was really a light bulb moment. So there was one dispute that was in the Supreme Court. This was a personal matter. There was this company from whom we had to recover money. So that was a manufacturer of garments, and we were supplying yarn. And so we had supplied yarn in 1986. In 1980, predates my birth, and that's why I say inheritance. So this was in 1986. We landed up supplying. That party defaulted; he could not pay. There was a decree of the Bombay High Court in 1991, and from 1991, that company claimed that it was a Sikh company, and it was a Sikh company for 25, 26 years.
Okay.
It's ridiculous how that works, but unfortunately, that's what happened.
Yeah.
In 2016, this matter was settled. So after, I don't know what, almost 30 years, this matter was settled. It's not that it was adjudicated or decided by any court. It was settled. And at that time, we were in the Supreme Court. So I was yet, just freshly out of law college and, all of that. So we had a counsel, but I was in the court, and coincidentally, at that time, I had just taken Aman and Namita both, who are my co-founders. They both were in Delhi. I had taken both of them, say that let's go and experience how the Supreme Court works, So, and it was like an adventure for us, like, let's see, we've not been to the Supreme Court, let's go and see, how it works. So we were sitting over there, and then, there were talks of this settlement. So, and of course, we were fighting for principle. Now, after 30 years, what else are you fighting for? You can't be fighting for recovering any money, So the judge says, my counsel says, my party is here. If he accepts, I have nothing to say. So the judge calls me in front and he says that, son, why don't you settle this litigation? Because your father initiated the litigation. Your child will have to conclude it. Now, when a Supreme Court judge, for whom we look at, who are the flag bearers of justice, will tell what was I at that time, a 25-year-old saying that this is not a litigation, this is not a legal issue, it's a legacy issue, and it's going to go on for 3 generations. So why don't you accept what is being offered to you? So that was the time we thought that, okay, you know what, this can't work in a country like us. On one hand, we're talking about ease of doing business and contract enforcement and improving our rankings. On the other hand, we've got our senior judiciary. I mean, what more than the Supreme Court, saying that this is going to go on for a very, very, very long time. So that was the light bulb moment. That was that. It was in 2016. After that happened, that was, I think, maybe it was a miscellaneous day. I'm assuming it was a Friday. On Monday, I went to my partner's cabin in Monday 9 a.m. at the partner's cabin at KPMG, and I said, I am leaving. I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So that's how it sort of happened. And then, of course, because Aman comes from the insurance background, so he's been dealing with disputes, claim disputes all the time, for 4 or 5 years. That is what he was doing. Namita had similar experiences, whether it's family disputes or, what you see all around. So that's how we sort of then came together and we decided that no, we'll do something together. And that's how we started. And then it began with, surveying and studying and researching and all of that stuff. But that's really how it all began.
That is such a great story, though, I must say. Okay, so now let's walk through what PRESOLV 360 really is, right? Like, what is the solution and how are you really improving access to justice?
Sure. So, of course, there have been a lot of learnings along the way. When we started, it was not what it is today. And in fact, I can guarantee you that if we speak again in 2 or 3 months, it's not going to be what it is today. It's going to be completely different.
In fact, I'm going to just take a segue. I do want to understand why it's called PRESOLV 360.
I'll get to that as well. That's also an interesting. It's an interesting theory actually. So when we began in 2017, we were blown away with the idea of mediation, because we thought what a wonderful and mature way of resolving a dispute. And world over, it has worked so well. Why? Of course, it has to work in India, because why wouldn't people want to opt for this, especially when both parties are on board and once they've experienced what happens in litigation. So we began with a mediation platform. And this was our first matter really, where one of our professors from school, so Aman and I know each other since I think 22 years now. We were together from the first standard of school. So this was I think in 2017 itself. So we got a call from one of our professors saying that one of the helpers working in the school, her husband met with an accident, and since 4 or 5 years she's been running around to the motor accident claims tribunal to get insurance for that tragic death. So we said, okay, this sounds great. Aman already comes from the insurance background. Why not we go and we approach the insurance company, try a mediation. If it works, then great. And cutting the story short, in 2 weeks' time, she had the insurance money in her hand. All that was required to be done was make her moderate her expectations, because usually the expectations are so inflated by the lawyers that they think that, okay, unless we get that, we're not going to accept anything below that. On the other hand, we went to and we spoke to the insurance company. The insurance company was surprising. It was a PSU insurance company. Surprisingly, very, very cooperative, forthcoming, saying that, yes, we would like to settle also, because that improves our claim ratio. That is what we also need to show. It's in line with what we want to, sort of what both parties want. And that's it. In a Lok Adalat, the matter was settled, But what we didn't realize was the kind of impact it had on that lady, because she was debt-ridden. She was taking care of 3 small children, out of which one was an infant. And for her, this was everything. She had tears in her eyes and she said, thanks for saving me, because that is what it meant to her. And we said, wow, this is, if we could have such an impact, and we just did it as, like, let's just do this, because we are learning. So why not do this? So we said, this has to be scaled. And that's when we started building the mediation platform. Now, it took us some time to actually put it all together. We had no real reference to look at. We were doing it for, kind of not only a make in India, but made for India kind of a thing also. Very, very location specific, so to say. So when we did that, when we tried to scale this, right? We found it so difficult. So it was a B2C model, really. We were trying to approach individual litigants saying that, why don't you go ahead and settle this dispute? But we found it so difficult, because we would convince one party, then to convince their counsel, convince the other side, convince that other side's counsel, became a Herculean task. We said that this way it's not going to work. So we spent a good 6 months trying to figure this out, but we realized that, okay, this is not going to happen this way. And that's where we met a bunch of people who suggested that, why don't you begin, by the time the mediation movement picks up, at least start in online dispute resolution. Why don't you start working on online arbitration for small to mid-value disputes? So today you've got a bunch of these institutions who cater to large value disputes. The kind of fees and all is
it's obnoxious.
It is obnoxious. I was avoiding saying that, but yeah, that's the truth. That is the truth. So we said, okay, that seems like a great place, because there is really nobody catering to small to mid-value disputes, and especially for online arbitration. So we started working on that. We started building that. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit, is the time when we launched. And I think we launched and the pandemic hit. It so
Oh,
happened.
wow.
So we were wondering now whether this is going to be another episode with, what happened with mediation. So we did a
Right.
bunch of these, mediations and all of that. It kept going on, but we started developing this, and arbitration being a formal thing, a lot of things had to be taken care of while developing the entire arbitration platform. So, but of course, to our surprise, since all courts were shut, there was no way physical arbitration was impossible. We started getting a lot of traction for online arbitration. And really, it was one company which started with 5 arbitration. So now we shifted from a B2C to a B2B model.
Correct.
And over a period of time, we kept improving. First, it was just a skeleton, like everything was happening manually. But over a period of time, a lot of the processes were automated, and the idea yet remained settlement. We don't want, because arbitration tends to be a precursor to litigation. The idea was to push parties to settle the dispute while the arbitration was going on. So the idea was yet settlement. The communications were drafted in a way that promotes settlement. The trainings happened in a way, whether it was case management trainings, whether it was the trainings for the arbitrators. The idea was to settle the dispute, and anybody who has no idea of what legal is, of what arbitration is, could participate. It was made that simple. Of course, they're free to have a lawyer, they're free to challenge something, they're free to go about the entire process the way the law says it should go. But the central idea remained settlement. And thereafter, we started seeing rapid adoption, because a number of these, especially banks and NBFCs, since they are the ones with maximum disputes, they are the ones where it's centrally collected. All the disputes are centrally collected, whether it's a loan dispute, a credit card dispute, all of those things. And pandemic really affected people financially. The business was really down, so parties were looking to settle. They were facing, and banks and NBFCs on the other hand also were aware that this is the situation that they are facing. They couldn't pause that, okay, we are going to take legal action and we will take coercive action against you. So they were also open to restructuring it. The RBI came with supportive guidelines. The Supreme Court was supporting this kind of an initiative. So all of this started sort of coming together. We saw disputes from, we began with 5 disputes, and that has now come to a few thousand disputes a month that we do. But the idea remained on one hand, try and automate it as much as possible so that the same team can handle maybe 10,000, 50,000 disputes. On the other side, make it easier for parties to participate. So the most important thing for digital access to justice is that you should minimize the touch points for people to come and resolve. So now, while a bank and NBFC will have people on the platform doing all the actions, you cannot expect an individual person who has no idea of how to navigate law, forget law, even technology.
Yeah.
How should they participate? They are not required to come on the platform. Through all digital means, all the communications are sort of received by them. They can participate from the palm of their hand, as long as they have SMS, WhatsApp, email, whatever, even a phone call, whatever works for them. It's completely automated. And so on our end, we are also a very lean team. We need not expand our team just to cater to 5,000, 10,000 disputes. Does not mean we need 50 or 100 people. It's the same operations team of 7 to 10 people who are handling right from 5 disputes to 5,000 disputes. It's the same team that is able to handle that. On the other hand, the neutrals are greatly benefited because it's all very systematic for them. It's extremely, because of the automation, now it becomes a full-time thing for them. They need not look at alternative sources for earning a livelihood. They can look at this as a full-time thing, because now instead of being able to handle 5 or 10 disputes, they can handle 100, 150 disputes at a given point of time because of the level of automation. So, and ultimately the parties can participate. It's a level playing field. Parties participate, they settle their dispute. Interestingly, from less than 1% settlements, it has gone up to 20%. So 20% of the matters that are referred to us are settled. So they need not go in even for a full-fledged arbitration. The remaining, yes, when parties do not participate, the arbitration ultimately leads to an award, and then it goes accordingly. Interestingly, the mediation movement then picked up. Now you hear a lot about mediation happening across, and with pre-institution mediation also coming in. So we interestingly got empaneled by the Bombay High Court, the first
Wow.
ODR platform to be empaneled by a high court in the country. And because the Bombay High Court did it, the city civil court also did it here in Bombay. So we started getting matters from them for resolution, and those matters need not be restricted to small value disputes. They range anywhere from, let's say, a 5 lakh rupee dispute to a 15 crore rupee dispute. And interestingly, all pre-institution mediation matters that have been referred to us, 100% of them have been settled. So
Wow.
that has been a very satisfying and an interesting journey for us.
Wow, that's absolutely great. I understand that there have been some other government recognition of PRESOLV also. Can you just walk us through them as well?
Certainly. So we had made a presentation in, I think, 2018 or 2019 to the Ministry of Law and Justice. And, so typically what we hear about the government that, okay, you know what, getting a meeting with them is going to be impossible, right? You know how bureaucracy works, you know how government works. Interestingly, a first cold call to them and they said, come to Delhi, we are ready to meet you.
Wow. Okay, so I think people just need to take the first step.
Absolutely. I cannot emphasize that enough, because that was something we have a preconceived notion that, it's not going to work, but we've never tried. So that is, if you don't try, it's 100% no, so that's what happened. So we made that call. We got a meeting the very next week we were in Delhi. We made a presentation, and so that time the Department of Justice had a list on their website of generally of institutions doing arbitration and mediation, and then they had included a couple of platforms who were doing online dispute resolution as well. So after making that sort of a presentation, they went through our platform, they did some stress testing, after which we were also included in that list. And thereafter, like I said, we were empaneled by that happened subsequently, I think in 2020, when the pandemic was in full flow. At that time, we got this recognition from the Bombay High Court, and then subsequently the City Civil and Sessions Court. So that was first for court annex mediation, and thereafter it became for pre-institution mediation as well. And thereafter, we've had various consultations with the Niti Aayog. So the Niti Aayog, of course, has done extensive work and has also published the ODR report, for which we were a part of the consultation. We have also the Department of Legal Affairs. So the Department of Legal Affairs, it moved from the purview of Department of Justice to the Department of Legal Affairs. They had a notification with all the institutions and they wanted certain information. So very soon we'll be seeing a list with the Department of Legal Affairs as well, which will contain names of various ODR platforms and physical, of course, both providing physical and physical arbitration and the physical infrastructure as well. But yeah, I think that has really helped to build trust in online dispute resolution, because when you get that credibility from these sort of established institutions like courts and like the ministry, I think it goes really deep into building that trust for people to be able to refer their disputes to an ODR platform. Yeah.
For everybody here, PRESOLV also raised a round of over $1 million, and congratulations on that to you and the entire team. So I want to understand what is on the books for PRESOLV, right, in the coming years for now.
Right. So it's all very strategic in the sense that raising funds was not just for the sake of raising funds, but we had a proper plan in place. We wanted these set of investors. So on one hand, we've got a remarkable set of angels. These angels they're super angels, so to say. They come from a wide variety of backgrounds, and they bring to them expertise of their relevant industry, which we can leverage when we are pushing online dispute resolution to their industry. And on the other hand, we have Umidyar. So Umidyar has done some fantastic work on the policy side for online dispute resolution. They've done extensive work with the government, with the judiciary. They've been involved with the Niti Aayog in pushing dispute and making dispute resolution more accessible. And so, with this kind of team, we felt that we will be able to take PRESOLV to the next level. And the main reason for why we raised these funds was main is investment in technology. So no matter how much we think that we've built the platform, or how much we think that technology is infused in dispute resolution, it's just not enough. There are so many opportunities over there, and the problem is so huge that even to make a dent, technology really needs to sort of be infused in a very, very integrated way. So investment in technology was the most important aspect of this. Of course, in terms of developing businesses, moving across different industries, building a team was number two. So with that, of course, the idea yet remains to stay focused in India, because the problem in India itself is so huge. No matter the number of online dispute resolution platforms, or no matter for that matter, the initiatives taken in this regard, it's not yet going to be enough, considering the volume of litigation and the volume of new disputes that are being sort of lodged in courts. So this was basically the reason why and who we raised from. And it's really, it's of course it's very different from this side. I was on the other side when I was working with KPMG. So at that time I realized that at that time it felt like, okay, you know what, you are dictating the conversation. When we are on this side, we realize that what it feels like, and it's a completely different sort of a ball game to navigate through. So it's been a very interesting journey, and luckily we have a fantastic set of very supportive and cooperative investors who are not only contributing in terms of, okay, financially supporting the initiative is one thing, but actively sort of lending their think tank thought process, how we should think about certain things, while giving us all the freedom of how we want to do it. So I think it brings a level of accountability, of course, to any entrepreneur, but at the same time, it sort of really allows us to spread our wings and fly.
I see. And so there is, of course, this huge boom, right, in just how the number of legal tech companies are really growing, and the amount of investment also that's sort of coming in. So where do you see this going? Like, how do you see legal tech really changing how we practice law, and how, disputes are done particularly?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people see legal tech as a threat, especially younger lawyers. They feel that they're going to be replaced. I think they just need to upskill, because these legal tech, products or services are not going to work by themselves. You need smart lawyers who are well equipped with law and technology to be able to take this forward. So just as an example, when we were working with our tech team, they are like, why do you need to do these things this way? There's a shortcut to do this. And we are like, no, there is something called as due process of law. You need to understand that, and that is why we need to take this long way to go about it. So it's really bridging that gap. As founders of PRESOLV360, our main role has been to bridge the gap between law and technology. So now, interestingly, a number of our tech guys come back saying that, this doesn't seem to be right. If you think about it logically and through the lens of law, this doesn't seem to be right. And we, on the other hand, being lawyers, say that no, technology can help us do this. So interestingly, we have, sort of understood each other's roles so well. That is exactly what new age lawyers will be doing. I'm certain that, legal tech is going to be a subject in law schools as well. Without that,
so in fact, in a few international law schools, it's already very much there. India's a little bit behind on
but
that.
I think it's getting there, right? We've done a number of these kind of knowledge sessions, seminars with a number of these law schools, and interestingly, we've got some great ideas coming in, and people are looking for something different, for something exciting, and I think this is exactly it, right? I mean, everything has moved. Every other industry has gotten technology involved in their processes, or made technology the center of their process. Why hasn't the legal industry done that so far? So the opportunity is tremendous, both as from an entrepreneurial standpoint, as well as from people using legal tech products also. So interestingly, when we were incubated by CAM, the level, so because they have a separate innovation team, as does Ketan, it shows that top tier law firms are taking legal tech very, very seriously. The minute you see the industry leaders adopting legal tech in this way, certainly there will be more adoption. Certainly, it will amplify what legal tech does and what legal tech can do. It will only improve the process. It will not take away opportunities. It will give more opportunities than take away. And like every industry, I'm sure in a few years there will be consolidation. You will see M&A happening. You will see some companies failing, some doing extremely well. It's a natural process of any industry. So in a few years that will happen, but we will see a lot many. So if today we have 100 legal tech companies in the country, I'm sure 5 years from now there will be 1,000 legal tech companies. Not necessarily all 1,000 will succeed, but yeah, ultimately the more number of companies are there solving a particular problem, I think sky is the limit for future lawyers.
So for a student, right, who wants to engage with legal tech, what do you think they should, like, where should they start?
I think if you are able to find a problem worth solving, and if you're passionate about solving that problem, it doesn't matter whether you're working somewhere, whether you're part of a law firm, whether you're part of a company, or in the legal department, you're an entrepreneur, you're a student, it doesn't really matter. You can be entrepreneurial in your own way. Understanding legal tech products, if you're working in a law firm, understanding what can be used, how it can be applied, is entrepreneurial in itself. The point is to take the initiative and start somewhere. The odds are absolutely fantastic. You may fail 100 times, but you need to succeed only once. I think there cannot be better odds than that. So, and it's only that way that you learn, and you have to be at it. You have to persevere. There is nothing like, getting it right the first time. It really doesn't happen. It's not happened with us. It's rarely happened with anybody else. So I think that's the important thing. Take the initiative, start. Don't think that, okay, just because I'm working somewhere, I cannot have the entrepreneurial spirit, or I cannot be an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur at the place you're working. It doesn't really matter at what stage of life you're at what is your age, what is your background. In fact, you'll be surprised. There's an equal divide between lawyers who started legal tech companies and non-lawyers who started legal tech companies.
Yeah.
And that is extremely interesting, right? Because you need to see it outside. We lawyers tend to read too much between the lines. That goes against the spirit of entrepreneurship. You of course, we always seek permission and then do something. Sometimes we need to do something and then seek forgiveness. I think that is going to be a key change in mindset.
You're actually the second person who's told me this, by the way, in the course of these interviews.
Interesting, because I think when somebody does face it, you realize, we tend to be so risk averse. As lawyers, we are built to be risk averse. So that mindset shift will be required for anybody who wants to explore the path of entrepreneurship.
Great. I mean, I think this is very useful. I'm just going to take a tiny segue, because I know you also run Legal Tech Asia, right? So what is that about, and what are you trying to cover there?
So, when we were from 2017 to, of course, 2022, these 5 years have been very interesting because, so right when we began, there was no category like legal tech. Whenever we used to apply to, let's say a Startup India program, right? And we used to be like, why are we always in others? Why shouldn't there be legal tech as a category? And now you slowly see that's happening. It's yet rare, but it's happening. Now legal tech is a thing. So back then when it wasn't, we were keen to meet different legal tech entrepreneurs or people doing something in legal tech. India was at that time very nascent when it came to legal tech, but world over, Asia specifically, since of course proximity wise, we were able to connect with different entrepreneurs. There were different student cells who were trying something with legal tech. So we wanted to interact with them. We wanted to give them a platform. We said, okay, interacting with them and not having some sort of a end result did not complete that, did not sort of complete that loop. So we just wanted to share our experiences of what happened when we spoke to somebody about legal tech. What are they doing? What interesting is happening? Ultimately, legal tech, the industry is going to work if there's going to be collaboration. Of course, there's going to be competition. Competition is going to keep you on the edge, but collaboration is what is going to take this industry forward, as what has happened in all the other industries. So this was the preliminary reason why we started Legal Tech Asia, to meet different entrepreneurs, to get their insights, not necessarily people from law, people from all sorts of backgrounds who are working or doing some work in legal tech, and encourage anybody, encourage students, encourage lawyers, encourage senior people to be involved in legal tech as well. So that is when we started Legal Tech Asia as something as.
Great. So I'll put the link for Legal Tech Asia in the description for anybody who wants to check it out. I have just one last question, Bhaven, which is that, of course, you did entrepreneurship, right? But where does one start? And how do you really take that leap of faith when you're trying to start out?
So I think what really helps is, if age is on your side, you can experiment. We are all experimenting. See, honestly, when you apply, let's say somebody applies to a law firm, you're experimenting because you don't really know what happens until you get the on-the-job training. If you want to do so as a lawyer, if you want to do an MBA, forget your IIMs, forget your Ivy Leagues. Entrepreneurship is your best experience of an MBA. It's going to be MBA in action, because every day you'll be experiencing a new challenge. How you navigate, once you learn, you cannot imagine, like even 5 years. So I don't know how many days it has been, but every day has been a new challenge. Just imagine the number of challenges that we face, and we always find a way. So that is ultimately what a management student does, right? He's able to manage a situation very well. If this is your interest, you can, if age is on your side, if this is what you're passionate about, just go ahead, take the initiative and jump at it. We lawyers tend to anyway jump at conclusions, so why not jump with an entrepreneurial spirit? So I think that ultimately is key. You'll realize when you as an entrepreneur start, you will be everything from chairman to chaprasi. You will be everything. So you should not be worried about whether you have to do all the grunt work yourself, whether you have to sweep the floors, and you have to figure out how exactly the modalities of your entrepreneurship journey will sort of pan out. But the idea is that there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. Only once you experience it will you either find that is your calling, or you'll realize that no, this is something that I don't enjoy. I'd rather work or do something else. So I think that's the whole and soul of it, really. And that's my experience. I'm sure others would have a different experience, but generally speaking, I really believe that this is a way forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Bhaven. Do you have any parting thoughts for us?
No, I think it's interesting to do things like this, because I really feel that as more and more people sort of get an idea that, okay, this is a real industry, and there are so many problems, and there is such a huge opportunity, is where people will start getting attracted towards something like this. Law, like you said, people run away from litigation. People run away from the word law because people find it too procedural, too complex. And why? But the more the complex it is, the more the opportunity it is to make it simple. And ultimately, people as consumers love something that is simple. So really, what you're doing with Prolawgue is an entrepreneurial thing in itself, because it is really creating awareness around legal tech, about opportunities beyond what we think a lawyer should do. And I think that is something that's going to really, really take this industry forward.
Thank you so much, Bhaven. Thank you for the appreciation also. And yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time today and speaking with us. This was great. I think I really enjoyed all the stories around how PRESOLV really was envisioned and how it's being built out and how you've constantly been pivoting and still growing. And I really hope that you grow a lot more, and I hope a lot more fun and interesting and amazing people across the board join your team soon.
Absolutely. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and thanks for inviting me on this.
Not at all. Thanks, Bhaven.
All right.